بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear respected brothers, I'm very excited to bring you this episode on how to have Eid in style, meaning healthy style. I hadn't really planned to deliver this, but in fact the thought that had come to my mind was to tell people how to recover from Eid day, but actually some of the principles are probably still applicable. I've got some, inshallah, I hope some exciting surprises for you in this short clip, which I hope will then capture some of the spirit of Eid, inshallah. So how to have Eid in style. Now this is Badshahi Masjid in Lahore, and I put this here. I mean, there are many beautiful mosques, of course, but it's the community spirit. It's a bit of culture, a bit of tradition, and I think it sort of kind of encompasses the tone of some of what we've been discussing this Ramadan, namely on how to tweak our diet and manage our lifestyle. So I want to start with a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, narrated by Ibn Abbas. He said from the Prophet ﷺ, when the day of Eid al-Fitr begins, the angels descend on earth, where they take their positions at access points of roads, calling out with a voice that is heard by the whole of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except for men and jinn. And the angels are reciting, O Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, come out to your most noble and gracious Lord, who grants much and pardons the major sins. When they proceed to their places of prayer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to his angels, O my angels, what is the reward of a worker when he has done his work? So they say, Our Lord and our Master, to receive his work, his reward for the work in full. So he says, I call you to witness that for their fasts during Ramadan and for their standing in prayer at night, I have made their reward my pleasure and my forgiveness. Depart from here, you are forgiven. Lata'if al-Ma'arif. So this is ultimately the spirit of Eid. It is a spirit of forgiveness, a spirit of jubilance, celebration, gratitude, accomplishment and achievement of, the ability to fulfill a great obligation and, in fact, a pillar of our deen. And there is no reward for this other than the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his forgiveness. And so Eid day in itself encaptures this spirit and is, a day of great forgiveness and gratitude, really. So however we decide to spend it, we should encompass these qualities in our day and not make it a day of sin and deviating from the principles of our deen. So what are these key principles? So as you've probably heard me mention several times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين. This is from Surah Al-A'raf. Essentially, the key part of the verse is eat and drink and do not commit excess. So this is a command, and this doesn't change on Eid day. So we can eat and drink and celebrate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's favours, but committing excess is within, it's where we overstep the boundaries. And the other verse is from Surah An-Nisa. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة أو عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. So, and the key part of this verse is ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم, and do not kill yourselves. And how do we kill ourselves? Well, overeating is one of the ways of killing ourselves, for sure, through obesity, diabetes, inflammation, and coming back to the original hadith that I shared, that there's no vessel worse to fill than the stomach, and the son of Adam alayhi salam should take a third for water, a third for air, and a third for food. And we have some guidance around how we should eat and drink. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not go out on the morning of Eid al-Fitr until he had eaten some dates, and he would eat an odd number, and this is from Bukhari. And regarding this, Ibn Qudama rahimahullah said, we do not know of any differing opinion concerning the fact that it is mustahab, highly recommended to eat early in the day of Eid al-Fitr. So 2 easy things: start your day early, start with Allah's blessings, have something sweet, have some dates, and have an odd number to fulfill the sunnah. And inshallah the day will start off in a good way. So I'm going to come back to the basics of eating. We've talked a lot about eating over the month of Ramadan. In fact, I don't think I've ever spoken so much about eating because, as I said at the beginning, nutrition is just one part of it, and it's how it fits into our lifestyles, how it fits into our mindset. So some things stay the same, so don't commit excess and try not to kill yourself. So eating the wrong stuff and eating too much and eating till you're bloated. But really, if we start with these basic principles, so we start with hydration, so make sure you have a third for water. And you don't have to have that all in one go, but if you have some water before you eat, it means that you won't fill yourself up as much, you won't feel as hungry. And then after you've had your hydration, start with the salad. Ideally, you can still make a beautiful rainbow salad, jazz it up for Eid, and do something creative. And perhaps some starters, but definitely if you start with a salad, that means that you're filling yourself up and prioritising the good stuff first. And then after that, if you are going to, you can have some lean protein like meat or fish, like a tandoori chicken or some, grilled fish or some grilled kebabs, something like that, if you are going to. But ideally start with a salad and then take a 10-minute break at least before you have your main course, so your stomach has time to adjust to the food that's arrived, and so you can determine when you're actually full and how much capacity you have. And then when you have your main course, inshallah, enjoy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings, use all the tips I've given you regarding herbs and nutrition that you can add to your food. Or, again, a 10-minute break before you have your dessert so that you've got some space. And one good tip perhaps for the current weather that we have is perhaps considering a barbecue, because that will be a very lean way to prepare your meat. Provided you don't just eat meat and you do have a good amount of salad with it, inshallah, it will be a really lovely thing to do this Eid, especially when we're mostly home with our families and we cannot invite people around. And then, alhamdulillah, we can have some dessert, and that's fine as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about dessert, because most of you are wondering, well, she's told us not to eat sugar, she's told us not to eat rice and flour and pasta and all these things, so how on earth are we ever going to enjoy Eid? And today's talk is all about celebrating Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings, knowing where the limits lie and how to create a balance. So, as you know, hydration is really important. It's the number one thing. It's almost more important than the food. And it's very, very easy to turn to fizzy drinks and all those things that could leave us, with an instant spike and feeling quite sick. So here are a couple of creative ideas. One is that you could create a fruit-infused water. So you can choose a combination of fruits or herbs or, whatever you choose really, and be creative. Ideally, you just need to prepare them. So you could do strawberry and basil, for example, or you could do cucumber and mint, or pineapple, lime and coconut. Prepare the fruit and infuse it in water. If you use filtered water, it will obviously be much more refreshing and free of chemicals. And you can either leave this overnight, or you can prepare it in the morning and have it with your afternoon Eid lunch. As long as you leave it for 2 to 4 hours, and you don't need a special infuser bottle, you should be able to have a really flavoursome and vitamin-enriched drink, inshallah, and something that looks beautiful and quite enticing. The other thing that we've made before is something like a homemade raspberry lemonade, which is actually very tasty and very, very easy to do. So it would literally involve blending up some fresh lemon, and I would blend it up with the skin on, but removing the pips, some fresh or frozen raspberries, and you could just use, once you've blended that up, you could add it to some sparkling water or still water if you prefer, like a still lemonade, but the children get more excited if there's a bit of fizz, and add some ice, decorate it with a sprig of mint. If you do want to add some sweetness, we'll talk about some sugar substitutes, but I would say for a drink, I would just add some honey when you blend up the lemon and the fresh raspberries. But even if you weren't to do that, you find it's actually very tasty. Okay, and then some creative ideas around dips. Now, we all have the usual sauces, and there are, most of these come out of a bottle these days, but if you wanted to be a bit more creative, here are some suggestions. So you could make a heart-healthy avocado dip. So just blend up your own guacamole with some fresh avocado, some freshly squeezed lemon juice, some jalapenos, and you could add some salt and pepper to your liking. But that's quite a nice spicy dip, and it's very, very tasty and very filling. So that's your green. Then you have amber. So for an amber coloured dip, I would say you take some sour cream, ideal organic, and take a very small piece of turmeric, because if it's too much, it'll be very overpowering, and some black pepper, and just whip it all together. If you have freshly ground black pepper, that helps to release some of the essential oils and the power, releases the power of the turmeric. But I would just whip that up. That's your amber. And if you wanted to go for the red, then you could do a homemade hummus, and just when you prepare the hummus in the blender, just put some, you don't even need to cook the beetroot. You can just use some raw beetroot, very small amount, and that should turn it bright red. Okay, so we're all thinking Eid and dessert, and it is time to really tickle those taste buds. So what are our alternatives? Of course, we can use sugar, and I'm going to talk about how we create the balance and how to use it if we do decide to. But we do have some very good alternatives that are safe for diabetics and safe on our diet program as well, inshallah, which is anti-inflammatory and anti-diabetic. So obviously we know that we can use honey. Honey has a lower GI, but it does still contain a fair amount of sugar if you're going to be using it in large amounts. And remember, cooking the honey will destroy some of its natural enzymes and properties, but it's still a wonderful sugar substitute, full of shifa and benefit and antimicrobial activity. If you're going to put it into a drink or bake some flapjacks with it, it's a good option, but you shouldn't have it in excess like most things. Coconut sugar has been increasingly popular. It's lower GI than regular sugar, which means that it doesn't cause such a steep insulin spike. However, it's still mostly sugar, so it can, if you're using it excessively or using it regularly, it can be associated still with metabolic syndrome, which is blood pressure, diabetes, heart trouble, all those things. So if you are going to use it as a one-off, it may be an option that you eat, but I wouldn't say that you should start eating coconut sugar because it's a healthy, it's a healthy food to indulge in. It's not. We've then got stevia and erythritol, and you can get combinations of stevia and erythritol because on their own both of them can be slightly bitter, and the ones that you might find more easily in the supermarkets or on Amazon, are things like Natfi and Truvia. They can come in with a granulated form or powdered form, so it would depend on your recipe, but for most cooking purposes the powdered form is better. You would use approximately the same amount in terms of quantity of sugar, and they contain next to no calories. In fact, your body just metabolizes them, and just you tend to excrete the product. However, because they're derived from plant alcohols, obviously not the kind that's prohibited, your body recognises this as a natural sugar source, and the taste is very similar to normal sugar. So these are great for baking, and generally as sugar substitute in many desserts. Things really to avoid are aspartame and other artificial sweeteners, obviously regular sugar, golden syrup, treacle, and jaggery, which is known as gur. When you fry your carbs and add some sugar, you are creating a toxic metabolic combination. So that kind of dessert is really something that if you're going to have on Eid, you need to just really watch how much of it you have. Okay. The other big one is chocolate. We're probably all missing chocolate. Chocolate can be a very enriching source of nutrition if we eat the right kind. So ideally above 85% dark chocolate. Some people say it's anti-inflammatory or it has antioxidant properties, which means it can support the immune system. And we know that a small amount of dark chocolate has been shown to be beneficial in women of a certain age in preventing heart failure and also in relieving chronic cough and reducing the risk of chronic cough. So eating the right kind of chocolate can certainly be beneficial for your health. But again, it's not about excess. It's about enjoying these flavours and being grateful for them. So if you are going to go for chocolate, and this is going to be a bit tricky, but the ideal would be above 85%. Now that is quite bitter, and if you can't manage above 85%, then go for a dark chocolate as opposed to a light one. One lovely thing you might want to do is create a chocolate fountain. So you could melt the dark chocolate and dip your berries and fruit in there. I'm sure that would be a very popular thing, especially with the children. And chocolate brownies. So I was thinking, what would my children really like to have on Eid? I thought, well, brownies is something that they really enjoy. So there are many recipes on the internet on how you can make dark chocolate brownies with very low carb, and this is a recipe from the Nom Nom website. Feel free to visit their website, and it contains basically butter, cocoa, salt, eggs, almond flour to hold them all together, and then you would use erythritol powder, so that would be, you know, either your stevia or your nut beer. And if you like a sort of more bitter taste, then you'd add a touch of espresso. But this is a tried and tested recipe, and the brownies are really quite delicious. Very fudgy, very chewy. And I don't want to say too much more because you're fasting and I don't want to tempt you. Okay. If, like me, you're a bit of a fruit fiend, remember fruit is essentially bags of sugar. It's nature's candy, but alhamdulillah, it's full of benefit as well. So again, it's all about balance. But you could create yogurt shots. So you could make ideally you would make your own homemade yogurt, but if you're not a yogurt maker, make sure you go for a live, full fat, really good quality organic yogurt. You would stir in some raw honey, add in some passion fruit and mango chunks, and decorate it with some soaked chia seeds. And that should be very delicious and nutritious, and a great dessert or something after you've had your dates in the morning. It's full of live bacteria, it's full of vitamins, including vitamin A, and it's full of omega-3 to fight inflammation, as well as all the benefits in the honey. If you wanted to be clever and turn this into a cute-looking trifle shot, all you need is some shot glasses, and you would make an almond flour base. So in each one, you would combine the almond flour, a bit of vanilla, and some melted butter, and just set it just like you would set the base of a cheesecake with some crushed digestives, except you're using a nut base instead of a cookie base. You could set that in the fridge or the freezer, and then top it up. So you would put a layer of your passion fruit and mango mix, a layer of honey, top it with the yogurt, and sprinkle it with the chia seeds. Okay, the next recipe I have for you is gajrela, which is a traditional Punjabi carrot pudding. Often people like to have kheer or rice pudding of some sort. Most cultures have some form of rice pudding, but rice pudding doesn't really work well with brown rice. And it's very high in terms of its glycemic index, which means that you release a large spike in the insulin, and most of those are sort of quick carbs, and starches, which are really not good for our gut or for our metabolism. So instead of a rice pudding, you could go for a carrot pudding, which is just as delicious, if not more so. And you would basically cook this using carrots, full fat milk, cashews, cardamoms, nut beer or coconut sugar if you're going to make the exception for Eid, and some organic butter ghee. So the easiest way to do this is that you would saute your carrots in the ghee and add some milk to that until they're cooked. You can saute the nuts separately because you're going to stir them in right at the end. Once you've cooked the carrots in the ghee and then in the milk, then you're going to add the sweetener, whether that's coconut sugar or nut beer, and use approximately 3/4 of the quantity that you would of sugar. So if you're going to use a cup of sugar, use 3/4 of a cup of the nut beer. And cook that for another 3 to 4 minutes until it's completely dissolved in the carrot mixture. Then you're going to stir in the cardamoms and cook this for another 3 to 4 minutes. You can add some cream at this stage if you prefer, or some milk solids. And then add in the cashews and cook this for another couple of minutes, and you're ready to go. You can have this hot, or you can allow it to cool down, refrigerate it and have it cold. It's absolutely delicious, and many recipes you can find for this on the internet. It doesn't take more than half an hour to prepare, and it's not only is it nutritious because it's full of carrots and protein and fibre, and omega-3 and butyrate and all those wonderful things we spoke about before. But it's also very festive, and it looks very sophisticated, but it's actually extremely easy to do. And then you can of course decorate it however you wish. Okay, some of us, we like our cheesecakes, and there are many great recipes on the internet for cheesecake. This one is from wholesomeyum.com. It's a sugar-free cheesecake, and it's very low carb. So you'll see the key here is making the base using almond flour, which is obviously high in protein and fat. But you're having it on Eid day, so that's absolutely fine. And you combine this, the base, the almond flour with butter and erythritol as your sweetener and a bit of vanilla extract. Again, you're going to set the base. And for the filling, you're going to be using cream cheese, powdered erythritol, eggs, lemon juice, and vanilla extract, and you can bake that. And if you go on the website, I show you exactly how to do this. And you top it with berries or coulis. So make sure you've got a good supply of frozen berries for eating. You can make a delicious topping for your cheesecake. Okay, so we've talked about some sort of tips, and you've had some basic ideas there on how to be creative. And inshallah, I'm sure you have many better ideas than me, but I wanted to show you that the world's your oyster. So although you're cutting back on rice and bread and flour and potatoes and all those things, and you're thinking, how on earth are you going to enjoy Eid? I want to show you there's a world beyond carbs, and there's a world that can allow you to enjoy things provided you are sensible and have a balanced approach, and that you can still make some really yummy things and enjoy this special day. But again, a lot of this comes down to our intentions. So on Eid day, we should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember his favours and his blessings. So the things that will help us to eat the right way and celebrate with the right spirit are to remember 4 first aid principles. The first is that Eid is about community spirit rather than gluttony and greed. So we give our zakat al-fitr before the Eid prayer, so our brothers and sisters can enjoy the day. Those who are less fortunate are able to enjoy the same things as we are. They will spend a month feeling their pain, feeling their hunger, feeling part of one ummah, one body, and we shouldn't forget this on Eid day. Even if we're celebrating Eid on our own this year, we should try our very best to, still capture this spirit. Okay, so we were talking about the principles of Eid day, and we talked at the beginning about the spirit of forgiveness and the spirit of gratitude and community. And although we're doing Eid on our own, and now we are allowed to meet with one person outside our homes, we should still very much be careful of the social distancing, but also remember that community spirit in the way that we celebrate on Eid. So gluttony and greed are not from our tradition. We should have trained ourselves over the last month to tackle these diseases of the heart, diseases that harden the heart and attach us to the dunya and take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Feeding the nafs excessively deprives the soul, and we don't want to lose that on this special day. The next thing is to experience gratitude. We should feel gratitude when we're able to share that food with our children or drop something nice to our parents. And really, it's a day of giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's not through excess, but it's by counting the blessings that he's given us and enjoying them and savouring them. We have too much food on the table. It's actually very, very difficult, very confusing for our brain and our taste buds to discern one from the other. We feel the pangs of our nafs telling us to eat more than we can manage. And we're not able to fully enjoy the food. All we get at the end is bloating and heartburn. And we still have a watering mouth and yearning eyes. The next principle is that of balance. So we talked many times about Ramadan being a month of retraining the balance between the body and the soul, and how to have a balanced plate and a balanced meal. A third for water, a third for air, and a third for food. And we've talked about finding that balance in our lives. And so on Eid day, we don't want to lose all the learning, and we should still remember to eat in a balanced way. Putting our hydration and our rainbow salad first. So if we put the priorities first, inshallah, we will allow the right amount of space for the rest. And lastly, in moderation. So we are ummatan wasata, as I've said a number of times. And we don't forget this on Eid day. We don't become people of excess, greed, or any kind of extreme behaviour. The second part of the first aid. So I want to put things in perspective with Eid. Now I know that it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea to sit there. Not everybody's going to be cooking at home. And some of us might even get a takeout. We've got a break after 30 days of preparing food at home in lockdown. And that's fine. So I want to talk about the 80-20 rule. Now, if you do the right thing 80% of the time, 20% of the time, your body will cope if you break the rule. So that's the first thing. So you decide to relax things a bit on Eid, that's absolutely fine. So long as you stay within the boundaries of the Sharia, and you don't eat to excess and you don't harm your body, and you do things in moderation, you'll be fine. But it's where we kind of break those boundaries that becomes a problem. But particularly on Eid day, I would say stick to the 80-20 rules. If you want to enjoy yourself, that's fine. Just don't become gluttonous about it, and don't forget the suffering of others. There are also some anti-inflammatory rescue suggestions, which I'll give you on the next slide, to help counteract any sort of inflammatory damage to your body from sort of delicious food and complex food, spicy and sophisticated meals. And then there's post-Eid detox, which I won't discuss here today, but let's see, inshallah, perhaps there will be something after Eid. Once we've had all our Eid dinners and celebration, inshallah, let's see just how we can get our bodies back on track. So the anti-inflammatory first aid, here we go. So glutathione is an important amino acid, so a chemical in the body, which is very, very important in fighting inflammation. It's an antioxidant. It fights toxic chemicals in your body. When we create a state of inflammation, either through eating the wrong kind of food or through the other factors such as aging and stress, the glutathione becomes very depleted. And so we are not able to fight inflammation as effectively. If you consider adding something like broccoli or kale with your meal, these are very, very good sources of glutathione, well, of something called N-acetylcysteine, which becomes converted into glutathione or creates, an increased supply of glutathione in the body, helps to regenerate the glutathione, and helps to fight inflammation. So if you are going to have, a nice bun on Eid, make sure you've also got your broccoli in your rainbow salad. The other things that are potentially helpful are things like vitamin C supplements, but you would perhaps take them throughout Ramadan and on Eid, and maintaining optimal vitamin D levels, which I hope we've been discussing this throughout the month. So I hope, inshallah, everybody's on vitamin D replacement. Some people, benefit from N-acetylcysteine supplements, NAC supplements, but I wouldn't say that you need them at this moment in time. I would say just, try and follow the rules, have your broccoli or kale with you, and get back to normal as soon as possible afterwards. Then there's the issue of getting proper sleep. So on Eid day, we often stay up late the following day, and that's probably not a good idea. So you want to get back into routine. The only reason to really go to bed late is if you're doing Qiyamul Layl and you're being powered by your spirituality. Otherwise, go to sleep on time, wake up, maintain the tahajjud habit if you're able to, and get some proper sleep so your body has a chance to replenish itself. And again, physical exercise. So I'm not telling you to do a workout on Eid, but alhamdulillah, we have beautiful weather. And despite the lockdown, we're now able to go into parks. So maintaining a social distance, please do take your family out, spend the day with happiness, with joy, and perhaps, you can, go out for a lovely walk or something along those lines. Okay, and as I mentioned before, there will potentially be a post-Eid detox program, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. So there we go. Those are my tips for a healthy and fun Eid. Inshallah, Jazakumullah khairan for bearing with me throughout this series. Taqabbalallah minna wa minkum, and Eid Mubarak. Take care and keep us in your du'as. Okay, ma'as salam.